Saraphina Lopez, with her long green hair and innocent look, plays with dolls that represent her and her supposed friends. She treats the doll in rags like a disposable toy that she can just toss away. She keeps up a gentle act for the public while her hands are busy with her cruel game. With a smirk, she snaps the wooden stick of the doll she's finished using. The imperial ballroom is packed with nobles, all waiting for the night's main gossip. Guests mingle and scan the room for anyone who doesn't seem to belong. A few ladies whisper behind their fans, judging every newcomer that enters. On the floor, a discarded doll in rags serves as a silent reminder of how some people are viewed here. Saraphina walks through the crowd, confident that she's the most beautiful woman in the room. She greets her peers with a perfectly practiced, sugary smile. The doors open and a woman in a stunning white lace gown steps into the light. Everyone remembers the girl who used to be nothing more than a gloomy shadow in the background. In the past, this girl was treated like a literal footstool for the elite to step on. But today, that girl, Larit, stands tall and refuses to hide in the shadows anymore. The nobles are stunned into silence as she walks past them with newfound grace. Over on the sofa, Saraphina sits with Gregor Gusto, the man who used to look down on Larit. Saraphina looks absolutely delighted, thinking she's still the center of the world. She continues her act of being a sweet, innocent lady for Gregor's benefit. Larit finally reveals her face, looking more elegant than anyone in the room. She moves through the ballroom, leaving her former life as a servant far behind. The socialites can't stop staring, wondering how a gloomy extra transformed so much. Saraphina's fake smile falters as she realizes she's being completely upstaged. She tries to approach Larit, likely to say something subtly cruel to put her back in her place. But before she can reach her, someone else grabs Larit's hand. It's Princess Evangeline Claudius, a woman known for her cold and blunt personality, stepping in to block the way. Gregor can only watch from the sidelines, looking completely baffled by the scene. Evangeline, with her golden blonde hair and sharp blue fan, looks down on the crowd with disdain. She grips Larit's hand firmly, making it clear they are together. The princess stands as a shield for Larit, looking down at everyone with cold, blue eyes. Saraphina is left speechless, her face going pale at the sight of this new alliance. Evangeline pulls Larit close, making a public declaration that shocks the entire room. Her gaze is ice-cold as she stares down anyone who dare whisper a word. Saraphina can't believe the most powerful woman in the empire is defending her servant. Evangeline calls out Saraphina for her habit of judging others' tastes so casually. She turns back to Larit, her expression softening just a tiny bit. Other guests start to snicker, seeing the perfect Saraphina finally get put in her place. Gregor tries to laugh it off, but he's completely ignored by everyone. Saraphina immediately turns on the waterworks, trying to play the victim like she always does. Evangeline isn't buying the act and keeps her focus on Larit. Larit looks down for a moment, reflecting on the psychological chains she's finally broken. When she looks up, her eyes are filled with a new, sharp determination. Outside the ballroom, someone calls out to the princess as the night's drama continues. Larit thanks Princess Evangeline for her help and the beautiful dress she's wearing. The princess stops her, telling her to listen very carefully to what she's about to say. She insists she didn't get the dress because she actually likes Larit. According to Evangeline, she just can't stand having her companion look shabby in public. Larit smiles, having already caught onto the princess's obvious tsundere attitude. She takes the blonde's hands, causing the proud woman to blush with embarrassment. Looking back, Larit remembers a time when her life was very different. She recalls a tea party in the garden where she was treated as nothing more than a servant. She was forced to carry heavy cushions for the guests, barely able to see over the stack. Even as she struggled, none of the so-called friends offered to help her. She brought the cushions to Saraphina, who was sitting comfortably with Gregor Gusto. Gregor was busy coddling Saraphina, asking if her back hurt from sitting too long. Saraphina played the role of the fragile, lovely flower to absolute perfection. She looked up at him with wide, innocent eyes, soaking up every bit of attention. Meanwhile, Larit stood by like an invisible prop, waiting for her next set of orders. The two of them acted like a happy couple while Larit was right there in the background. Gregor laughed as he thanked her, clearly finding the whole situation amusing. Larit could only bow her head and take the humiliation in silence. But then, a hidden and painful memory finally began to resurface. She remembered falling into the cold garden pond while everyone else watched. Someone had held out a stick, but it wasn't to save her. It was to push her further in. She had clawed at the wet grass, desperate to climb out of the water. She gasped for air, soaking wet and shivering while the others laughed at her misery. Saraphina had stood there, looking down at her with a beautiful and fake smile. It was then that Larit realized she had been obediently following a monster. Back at the tea table, Saraphina accidentally spills her tea, making a scene. Larit stares at the mess, but something inside her mind has finally snapped. Saraphina reaches out for her help, acting as if she's the one in distress. She tries to play the best friend card again, putting on a worried face. She pulls Larit into a hug, whispering that she only has her to rely on. Larit thinks back to that day and knows she fell into the water because of Saraphina. The green-haired girl acts flustered, trying to hide her malicious intent. She sits back down, adjusting her dress as if nothing had happened. Larit just stares at her, the realization of years of manipulation washing over her. Gregor snaps at her, demanding to know why she's just standing there like an idiot. He turns back to Saraphina, continuing to pamper her with cushions and sweet talk. The table is full of sweets, but the conversation around it is bitter with gossip. The other noble ladies whisper that Larit is finally back to playing maid where she belongs. Larit's hand trembles as she grips the fabric of her skirt, trying to stay calm. She looks down at Saraphina, who is still pretending to be a helpless victim. A dark smile touches Larit's lips as she reaches out and takes the heroine's hand. She grips her arm with a force that says her days of being a footstool are officially over. Larit stands alone in her dark brown dress, her long black hair cascading down her back as she faces the reality of her situation. Saraphina Lopez, with her vibrant green hair, hides a malicious smirk behind her hand, her true nature hidden from the world. To the world, Larit was nothing but a puppet in a story, a character destined to be used and discarded. Doesn't it make you angry? A voice within her screams, her red eyes burning with a sudden, intense fury. In the novel, Larit was supposed to be the submissive friend, but this time, she grabs onto Saraphina with a grip that won't let go. With a decisive surge of strength, she sends the heroine sprawling, determined to finally throw the trash out. Saraphina falls back in shock, the other noble ladies gasping at the sudden, violent turn of events. The garden tea party is thrown into chaos as Saraphina hits the ground, her chair toppling over next to her. Gregor Gusto slams his hands on the table, shouting in outrage at Larit for her unexpected defiance. Larit looks on with a cold, unwavering gaze, her hands clenched at her sides as she faces her former tormentors. She remembers the source of this twisted reality, the novel titled Lovely Saraphina that dictated her misery. In the original story, Saraphina was the pinnacle of virtue, a saintly figure adored by all. Every act of hers was framed as one coming from a kind and selfless heart, even when it was a lie. She was always the center of attention, the beloved protagonist that everyone was drawn to. However, there was a dark truth hidden beneath the surface, represented by the thorns that strangled the life out of others. Saraphina was depicted as a victim of the wicked Villainess, Princess Evangeline Claudius, gaining sympathy through false trials. She captivated even the most powerful men, like Dietrich von Claudius, with her carefully crafted persona. And there was Larit, the background character with zero presence, her face hidden behind typical, heavy bangs. But everything changed when Larit's eyes flared with a new consciousness, the red orbs glowing with a sense of self. Back in the present moment of the flashback, Gregor rushes to Saraphina's side, his expression full of concern. Larit knows the truth now. The girl who is so different on the inside from what she shows the world is the true villain of the story. "It's fine, Gregor," Saraphina sobs, playing the part of the wounded dove while Gregor glares at Larit. The other girls whisper maliciously, accusing Larit of being jealous of Saraphina's closeness with the young Lord Gusto. Beneath her facade, Saraphina's eyes hold a sharp, predatory glint as she watches the fallout. Gregor looks down at Saraphina with eyes full of adoration and worry, completely fooled by her performance. He promises to bring a doctor, while Larit thinks about how they always manage to overreact so dramatically. Saraphina maintains her heroine look, her expression a mask of poise and undeserved suffering. Larit grips her own arm, wondering if this is the part where she's supposed to bow her head and beg for forgiveness. She stands apart from the group, a solitary figure observing the theater of lies unfolding before her. The hostess of the party approaches, her face pale with worry as she tries to handle the situation. She suggests calling a doctor, fearing that the delicate Saraphina could be seriously injured by such an impact. The bright garden setting stands in stark contrast to the dark and manipulative atmosphere at the table. Larit rubs her temple, feeling a massive headache coming on from the sheer absurdity of the people around her. She knows that if rumors spread about an injury at this party, it will lead to more trouble for everyone involved. The hostess is terrified for her own reputation, knowing that hosting a violent event could ruin her social standing. Larit bows her head respectfully to the hostess, a small gesture to acknowledge the woman's concern. Gregor continues to bark questions, refusing to believe that Larit was simply checking Saraphina's shoes. Saraphina remains on the floor, her hands clutching her dress as she looks up at Larit with wide, hurt eyes. But deep in her gaze, there is a flicker of genuine shock and fury at being challenged. "I'm sorry, Saraphina," Larit says, her voice devoid of any real remorse as she stands over her. She extends her hand toward the fallen girl, a gesture that seems kind but feels like a threat. Larit offers to help Saraphina up, a move that forces the heroine to either accept her help or look even more suspicious. The hostess stares in disbelief, her hand pressed to her chest as she witnesses Larit's unexpected display of power. Saraphina stammers, her voice trembling as she realizes that her usual act of helplessness isn't working on Larit this time. The hostess quickly gives orders to a nearby maid, who bows respectfully and prepares to carry out her lady's command. With the situation spiraling out of control, the hostess turns away, her elegant gown rustling as she tries to maintain some semblance of order. In the quiet of the garden, the dynamic has shifted. Larit stands tall while the once dominant Saraphina is left humbled on the ground. First time feeling this way, isn't it, Saraphina? Larit whispers, her red eyes gleaming with a terrifying sort of satisfaction. Larit towers over her former friend, her expression one of cold triumph as she finally breaks free from the role she was forced to play. A few days pass and the scene shifts to the antsy Viscountcy's townhouse, where Larit has retreated to plan her next move. A soft knock sounds at the door, and a maid's voice filters through as she tentatively enters the room to check on her lady. The maid peers in, her expression one of cautious concern, unsure of what to expect from the changed Larit. She brings a tray of refreshments into the room where Larit sits, the atmosphere much calmer than their previous encounter in the garden. Seated at her desk, Larit picks up a quill and begins to write with a determined and satisfied expression. Write, nothing in my life. She muses, her red eyes sparkling with the thrill of taking control of her own destiny. On the desk lies the document she has just completed, a notice of engagement annulment that will officially sever her ties to Gregor Gusto. Larit antsy stamps a wax seal onto an envelope, finalizing her decision. She looks at the finished letter, ready to face whatever comes next. She's done being treated like a servant by the men in her life. Larit sits alone in her room, staring at the breakup notice she just prepared. She sets her tools aside, knowing that for her family's sake, she needs to get this guy out of her life fast. A sudden noise at the door catches her attention. Before she can even react, Gregor Gusto slams the door open and barges in. He looks absolutely livid, his face red with rage. Behind him, a panicked maid tries to apologize, but Gregor is already making a scene. Larit just watches him, completely unfazed by his outburst. Seeing that she's got this under control, the maid quietly slips away. The door clicks shut, leaving Larit alone with her unwanted guest. Larit takes a deep breath and rubs her temple, already exhausted by his presence. They stand off in the middle of the room, the tension thick between them. She calls him out for barging into her room like a madman, using her recent illness as an excuse for ignoring his letters. Gregor doesn't care about her health. He's more worried about the embarrassment she caused him at their last outing. He demands she apologize to both him and Saraphina, but Larit just starts coughing. The sudden fit catches him off guard, making him pause his rant for a second. She stops just as quickly as she started, telling him straight up that she's done wasting energy on his nonsense. Larit takes a seat, asking him if she's not even allowed to be sick while he's the one who should be apologizing. She looks perfectly composed, a far cry from the submissive girl he's used to. Gregor snaps, claiming that as her fiancé, he doesn't need to be polite. Larit looks down at the letter in her lap, pointing out that no fiancé should be scolding her through letters for days on end. Her bluntness clearly catches him off guard. With a bright, almost mocking smile, she holds up the envelope and tells him it's a breakup notice. Gregor stands there frozen, unable to process what he's hearing. She offers it to him one last time, making it clear she'll send it officially if he won't take it now. Gregor reaches out aggressively, refusing to accept the reality of the situation. Larit doesn't flinch. She just calls out for backup. Stefan Warren, her massive butler, appears in the doorway with the maid. Stefan steps forward, politely but firmly offering to escort him to his carriage. Gregor cowers slightly, realizing he's lost this round. Once the door is closed, Larit leans against it and sighs in relief. She collapses back onto the sofa, realizing just how draining it is to play the role of a side character. Staring into her glass of wine, she wonders if this one move is enough to change her fate. In her mind, the image of Saraphina Lopez looms like a puppeteer pulling everyone's strings. Larit knows she's still caught in the heroine's web, and breaking free won't be easy. She sips her wine, realizing that she wasn't the only one Saraphina manipulated. Princess Evangeline Claudius is known as the infamous Villainess. In the original story, the princess was just another piece on Saraphina's chessboard. Saraphina always stayed close to the powerful, like Dietrich von Claudius, to keep her mask of innocence. But since the story has just begun, the two of them haven't even met yet. Saraphina Lopez stands among the elite, maintaining her perfect, angelic image. Meanwhile, Larit Ansi is absolutely fuming in the background. She starts rage drinking, realizing that Saraphina is the one who's actually the villain. She stops for a second, catching on to the fact that someone used the word we. Larit imagines herself joining forces with the princess, the two of them looking like a perfect pair. A mischievous smile spreads across her face as the plan forms. She's practically glowing with excitement over her new idea. The next morning at the massive Claudius ducal estate, things are already moving. Princess Evangeline Claudius sits in her study, going through her morning mail. Her brother, Dietrich, stands by while she reads a particularly strange letter. She's never even heard of the girl who sent it, finding the whole thing suspicious. She takes a slow sip of her tea, wondering what this Larit character is really up to. Back at the Ansi estate, the morning sun hits the windows. Larit is sitting on the edge of her bed, looking like she's regretting every decision she made last night. She's completely slumped over, while her maid comes in to deliver some news. Larit suddenly realizes she actually sent that letter to the princess while she was drunk. The maid is horrified, knowing how dangerous it is to bother the infamous princess. Larit buries her face in her hands, wishing she could just disappear. Before she can even recover, the maid announces that someone is here to see her. Larit asks who it could possibly be at this hour. It turns out to be Saraphina Lopez, showing up unannounced as usual. Saraphina rushes into the room, putting on her typical act of being worried sick. She immediately grabs Larit's hands, trying to re-establish her dominance through kindness. She flashes an innocent smile, waiting for Larit to fall back into line. Larit just watches her, thinking about how Saraphina always uses this victim act to get what she wants. Saraphina offers a fake apology, acting like she's the one who was hurt by Larit's absence. She reaches out again, trying to keep Larit within her reach. Saraphina keeps up the performance, but the atmosphere in the room is starting to feel heavy. Larit keeps her eyes locked on her, seeing right through the mask. Saraphina pulls her into a hug, but Larit doesn't hug her back. Saraphina tries to maintain her grip, but Larit has decided she's done staying silent. She pulls her arm away, making it clear that she's no longer under anyone's thumb. Suddenly, the maid bursts in again, holding a letter with a red wax seal. A reply from the princess has actually come, much to everyone's surprise. Larit's expression shifts instantly as she tells the maid they need to start getting ready right away. Saraphina is left completely confused, wondering why Larit is even mentioning the princess. Larit holds up the envelope, revealing that she's received a formal invitation from her ladyship. Saraphina's fake smile starts to crack as she realizes Larit is moving up in the world without her. Without a second glance, Larit prepares to head out. Saraphina watches her go, her true, envious nature finally starting to show. Larit holds the letter tight, telling her that even between friends, prying into someone's private life is crossing a line. She turns her back on the manipulator, ready to start her new life. After Saraphina leaves, Larit feels a sense of clarity she's never had before. She watches as Saraphina is ushered away, finally free from the other girl's suffocating presence. With the invitation clutched in her hands, she knows her life is about to change. She takes a deep breath, steadying her nerves for what comes next. A wave of genuine excitement washes over her. The first step of her plan was a success. Soon, a carriage arrives at the grand entrance of the Claudius ducal estate. A servant welcomes Larit, leading her into the heart of the powerful family's home. She takes a final look in a mirror, hoping her appearance matches the importance of this meeting. The door to the drawing room is opened, and Larit steps inside, her heart racing. She stops dead in her tracks, completely awestruck by the woman standing before her. Princess Evangeline Claudius stands with her back to the door, a figure of absolute grace. All Larit can manage is a small, breathless sound of wonder. Having read so many novels, she thought she knew what to expect, but reality is far more striking. The princess turns slightly, her presence commanding and undeniably regal. Evangeline is breathtaking, looking like a goddess bathed in light, but her eyes are cool and calculating. Larit's composure slips for a moment as she fumbles with her greeting, feeling suddenly out of place. She quickly recovers, performing a flawless, deep curtsy to show her respect. Evangeline gestures for her to be seated, her tone polite but distant as they prepare for tea. The princess picks up a single red rose, her gaze lingering on the petals. Larit takes her seat, trying to remain poised as she expresses how honored she is to be there. As a maid pours the tea, the tension in the room is palpable between the two women. Evangeline looks directly at Larit, her blue eyes sharp enough to cut through any pretense. There's a weight to the princess's gaze, as if she's searching for any sign of weakness or deceit. Larit feels the pressure, realizing that she is being scrutinized by one of the most powerful people in the empire. Larit feels the intensity of the moment, realizing she is being weighed and measured by royalty. Evangeline sets her cup down with a quiet click, her expression unreadable. She admits that based on the letter she received, she expected Larit to be much more aggressive. Larit is momentarily caught off guard, realizing she might have undersold herself. She realizes she's been playing it too safe, almost falling back into her old, passive habits. She remembers the original story, where the villainess was always destined to be crushed by the protagonist. Larit takes a slow sip of her tea, using a moment to regain her focus and confidence. Something about Larit's shift in attitude seems to surprise the princess, catching her attention. Evangeline clears her throat, looking slightly uncomfortable with the silence. She mentions the rumors and the typical fate of those who cross people like Saraphina. The original narrative was a brutal thing, easily shattered if one knew where the cracks were. Larit thinks about the blatant unfairness of it all, how Saraphina gets away with everything just by being the main character. She looks the princess in the eye and confirms that every word in that letter was hers. Intrigued, Evangeline leans in, asking Larit to reveal the method she mentioned. A confident smirk begins to form on Larit's face. She has the princess right where she wants her. She places her hand firmly on the table, leaning forward to close the distance. She looks bright and resolute, ready to lay all her cards on the table. She smiles and gives her simplest, most honest reason. They share a common enemy. Larit leans forward, asking if she can address the rumors currently circulating through high society. Evangeline looks away, her expression guarded as she gives Larit permission to speak her mind. Larit explains that the rumors paint the princess as someone who looks down on everyone, refusing any form of association. Evangeline sighs, the weight of her reputation and the isolation it brings clearly visible on her face. A memory of a confrontation flashes through her mind, highlighting the contrast between her isolation and the social success of others. Suddenly, Larit's hand slams onto the tea table with a loud thud, startling the princess. Evangeline is wide-eyed with shock as Larit begins to dismantle the lies that Saraphina hides behind. Larit claps her hands together, expressing her immense relief that the princess had already seen through Saraphina's facade. The princess watches her with a mix of confusion and burgeoning interest, her defensive walls starting to crumble. Larit's red eyes shine with a fierce, honest determination as she speaks her truth. She contrasts the princess's lonely dignity with the calculated, crowd-pleasing antics of Saraphina. Evangeline falls silent, absorbing the fact that someone finally understands the reality of her situation. The princess stands and walks toward the balcony, her elegant silhouette framed by the late afternoon light. She looks back over her shoulder, her expression softened by a hint of melancholy and uncertainty. Larit watches her closely, acknowledging that it's only natural for the princess to remain wary of a new acquaintance. Evangeline stands with her arms crossed, looking out over her vast estate, as if searching for an answer. Larit stands as well, leaning forward to assure the princess that she has no intention of being anyone's puppet. The princess turns back to face her, the intensity of Larit's conviction clearly making an impression. For a moment, a rare sense of mutual understanding passes between the two villainesses on the balcony. Evangeline mumbles something about a temporary arrangement, her pride still preventing a full concession. Outside the estate, the heavy wheels of a luxurious carriage crunch against the gravel path. A servant greets the occupant, noting that it has been a long time since his lordship returned at such an hour. Dietrich von Claudius, the master of the house, steps out. He is a man of peerless, noble grace with short blonde hair and sharp blue eyes. As he prepares to enter his home, Dietrich glances up and notices two figures standing on the high balcony, his curiosity piqued. Larit is at the ball, looking way better than she ever did in the original story, but someone behind her suddenly asks who she is. It's the prince, Dietrich von Claudius, and he's definitely curious about his sister's new companion. Evangeline Claudius freezes up immediately, looking like she's been caught red-handed doing something she shouldn't. Dietrich just gives her this smug little smirk, clearly enjoying how flustered his sister is getting. Larit isn't about to let the tension hang, so she thumps the table to get everyone back on track. She suggests they all take a seat because explaining how she ended up here is going to take a while. Once they're settled, Larit starts telling the story of everything that went down recently. Hearing about how nasty Saraphina actually is makes Evangeline's blood boil. Larit plays along, acting a bit dramatic to show just how much she's had to deal with. She knows the best way to bond is over a shared enemy, so she starts spilling all of Saraphina's dirty laundry. Evangeline is totally on board now, grabbing Larit's hands with an intensity that's actually kind of scary. She looks ready to go to war, fully accepting Larit as her new partner in crime. Larit smiles and thanks her for the support, but she's still got one more thing to say. The sudden hand-holding makes the princess realize she's being a bit too friendly, and she starts to panic. She pulls away blushing, acting like a total tsundere and claiming they aren't official friends just yet. Larit just rolls with it, telling her that even a temporary friendship is more than she could ask for. As they walk, Larit realizes the villainess from the novel is actually just a big softie. Evangeline tries to act cool again, putting on her best scary princess face. She mentions how her brother threatened to cut her allowance because of all the rumors Saraphina's been spreading. Larit realizes that even if the personalities are different, the world is still trying to follow the original plot. She reaches out, determined to figure out why these rumors have so much power in the first place. Evangeline starts getting down on herself again, looking pretty discouraged. Larit calls her out immediately. The princess just told her not to be self-deprecating, so why is she doing it now? That bluntness leaves Evangeline completely stunned. They sit in silence for a moment as the vibe between them starts to shift into something more genuine. Larit looks as calm as ever, knowing she's finally making some real progress. Evangeline deflects by insulting Larit's fashion sense, telling her she can't be friends with someone dressed like that. She jumps up, deciding it's time for a complete wardrobe overhaul. She gives Larit a stern look, probably already planning 5 different outfits in her head. Larit just laughs. She's actually starting to enjoy the princess's company. Evangeline grabs her hand again, this time dragging her along with pure excitement. They end up spending the entire day just wandering the gardens and talking. Larit tells her she had a great time today, and for once, she actually means it. She gives her a soft, genuine smile that seems to catch the princess off guard. Evangeline looks totally surprised, like she can't believe someone actually enjoyed hanging out with her. She tries to act like it's no big deal, but you can see her softening up. As she heads back inside, she starts walking with a bit more of a bounce in her step. She stops and looks back, teasing Larit for having such dense tastes in clothing. From the stairs, she says it'd be better for both of them if they really got to know each other. She heads off to grab something, promising she'll be right back. Larit stands there watching her, feeling like she might have finally found a real friend. She knows this is just the beginning of her new life. Larit reflects on how rare it is to find a relationship based on mutual respect and consideration. Her heart flutters as she realizes she's finally being treated like a human being for once. She tells herself she shouldn't be crying over something as simple as being shown a bit of kindness. She starts looking around for a handkerchief to wipe away the tears. Someone suddenly stops right in front of her, catching her attention. It's the prince, Dietrich von Claudius, and he's holding out a cloth for her to use. Larit looks up in total shock, not expecting the crown prince to notice her. She thinks back to how people usually treat her, realizing how different this feels. Dietrich just stands there patiently, waiting for her to accept the gesture. Up close, Larit realizes he's even more beautiful than the novel described. She finds herself staring, completely entranced by his dazzling appearance. She finally takes the handkerchief, thanking him as she tries to pull herself together. She quickly apologizes for staring, feeling a bit flustered. As she dabs at her eyes, she can't help but feel a little overwhelmed. She blurts out that she's only crying because the princess said such kind things to her. Dietrich looks genuinely surprised, find it hard to imagine his sister being that moved by someone. Larit looks at him, seeing the clear disconnect between the siblings. She knows that if these two don't start understanding each other, they're headed for a bad ending. She recalls the tragic fate of the princess in the original story. Looking at the prince, she realizes how much work there is to do. But she's not going to give up on this new friendship. She tells him how much it meant to her that Evangeline actually listened and empathized. Dietrich smiles, saying it sounds like his sister has taken quite a liking to her. Larit is stunned into silence by his sudden warmth. He seems genuinely pleased that his sister has finally found a friend. He gives her a polite bow, showing he's a true gentleman. As he walks away, Larit is left standing there with a lot on her mind. She feels a sense of accomplishment, like she's already changing the story. She takes a deep breath, ready for whatever comes next. Suddenly, Evangeline appears with a basket of fresh red roses. Larit is overjoyed, telling the princess she feels incredibly lucky to have met her. The two of them head off together, looking more like real friends than ever. Evangeline tells her to stop overreacting before bringing up something more important. Larit worries that she's about to get another lecture about her terrible fashion choices. But instead, the princess suggests they go shopping and grab some good food together. Larit's heart leaps. She just got invited on a friend date by the princess. She finally climbs into her carriage for the night, feeling totally refreshed. She waves goodbye through the carriage door, beaming with happiness. She calls out a cheerful goodnight to her new friend as she heads home. Evangeline is left blinking in surprise at Larit's outgoing personality. She lets out a small laugh, finding the girl's enthusiasm infectious. She realizes that her very first friend is a lot more fun than she expected. Back at the palace, Dietrich and Evangeline sit down for a private dinner in an opulent hall. Evangeline takes a sip of her wine, looking slightly defensive as her brother brings up the events of the ball. She insists she was only laughing because Larit was genuinely funny, not because she was being uncharacteristically loud. Dietrich asks for confirmation, specifically mentioning Lady Annecy of the Annecy Viscountcy. He watches his sister closely, noting the rare change in her demeanor since she met this new girl. Evangeline bluntly states that just because she dislikes Saraphina Lopez, it doesn't mean she has to hate everyone in that social circle. Dietrich can't help but smile, genuinely enjoying seeing his sister so energized and happy for once. Evangeline catches his smirk and glares, her face flushing with irritation at being teased. Dietrich chuckles and tells her to relax her expression, or she'll end up scaring people off. Fed up with his teasing, Evangeline stands up abruptly, deciding she's had enough of dinner for one night. Dietrich just laughs harder, jokingly telling her he loves her too, as she fumes and turns to leave. He waves a playful goodbye as his sister storms off the dining room. Once alone, Dietrich reflects on how rare it is for Evangeline to swallow her pride for anyone. He thinks of Larit, who was moved to tears by his sister's sudden show of kindness. He smiles to himself, realizing that Larit must have truly earned his sister's genuine affection. The next morning, a bright pink carriage rattles down the cobblestone streets, signaling the start of their outing. Larit arrives at the meeting spot exactly on time, but she finds someone already waiting for her. Evangeline is already there, looking elegant in a new purple gown, and points out that Larit is actually early. She quickly adds that she only finished getting ready sooner than expected, trying to hide her own eagerness. Larit can't help but giggle at her friend's transparent attempt to act cool and detached. Evangeline's face turns beet red as she shouts that she definitely didn't lose sleep over being excited for today. Larit is deeply touched by the realization that the Villainess was just as excited as she was for their date. She covers her mouth to hide her wide grin, her heart swelling with warmth at this growing friendship. As the carriage sets off, Evangeline huffs and asks if Larit is really doubting her words. Soon, they arrive at an upscale boutique, where rows of exquisite dresses are on display. Evangeline immediately takes charge, informing the shopkeeper, Madame Christus, that she wants to see their entire collection. Larit stands back, overwhelmed by the sheer luxury of the shop and the beautiful garments surrounding them. She watches as a vibrant pink fabric is held up, unsure of what is about to happen. Evangeline's Villainess aura flares up as she reminds Larit that the whole point of today is to buy clothes for her. Larit waves her hands in panic, shocked that she's supposed to be the one wearing these expensive outfits. Evangeline points at the dresses she previously looked at, clarifying that those particular ones aren't for her. She looks at Larit with a serious, critical eye, determined to fix her wardrobe once and for all. She instructs the staff to send all the selected outfits to the townhouse, noting that Larit will look much better properly dressed. Evangeline leads Larit toward a large mirror, telling her it's time to see the result of their shopping spree. Larit stares at her reflection, hardly recognizing the radiant girl in the beautiful pink and white gown. Even the shopkeeper is impressed by the transformation, as Larit beams with newfound confidence. Larit tries to protest the immense cost, but Evangeline isn't having any of it. The princess lets out a fierce roar, scaring off any further attempts at modesty or refusal from Larit. She tells Larit to stop fussing, explaining that she'll enjoy their time together more if Larit looks good, then charges it all to her family estate. Evangeline feels a surge of satisfaction, having dressed Larit entirely according to her own impeccable taste. She turns toward the door with a confident stride, her work at the boutique officially done. A flustered but grateful Larit follows close behind, wondering how her life changed so much in just one day. "Wait for me, your ladyship," Larit calls out, hurrying after Evangeline while feeling radiant in her brand new gown. They arrive at a high-end restaurant, its grand architecture signaling the start of a luxurious meal. The interior is filled with the soft hum of conversation as noble patrons enjoy their afternoon in the sun-drenched hall. Evangeline leads the way inside, assuring Larit that the food here is just as impressive as the decor. She instructs Larit to grab a table by the window while she slips away for a moment to fix her makeup, telling her to order whatever she likes. Larit takes her seat, clutching her new purse and looking at the menu with a sense of wonder. Looking around at the other diners, she's struck by how genuinely happy everyone seems to be. She observes the couples nearby, realizing that sharing a meal and simple conversation is a luxury she's finally able to taste. For the first time in her life, Larit feels like she truly belongs in this world of bright lights and beautiful things. She carefully studies the menu, determined to pick something perfect for her first real meal with her new friend. Her pleasant thoughts are suddenly cut short when a familiar, sugary sweet voice calls out a nickname she hasn't heard in a long time. Larit's heart sinks as she turns to find Saraphina Lopez and Gregor Gusto standing right behind her. Larit Ansi sits by herself, finally getting a moment of peace at the ball. For a second, she actually feels like things are finally going her way. Then a hand grabs her arm, and her quiet night is officially over. Saraphina Lopez walks up with a fake smile, pretending everything is fine. She stops and looks Larit up and down, clearly caught off guard by her appearance. Her eyes narrow as she tries to process Larit's newfound confidence. Saraphina keeps playing the part of the concerned friend while looking for a weakness. She pauses mid-sentence, realizing the girl in front of her isn't the same old pushover. Larit doesn't flinch, meeting her gaze without the usual fear in her eyes. Saraphina looks ready to snap, while Gregor Gusto just looms uselessly behind her. They both turn to see if anyone else is watching their little drama unfold. Gregor starts lecturing her, acting like he still has any say in how she should behave. Saraphina looks disgusted by Larit's sudden lack of submission. Larit just fires right back, not letting them control the narrative anymore. Gregor stands between the two women, clearly overwhelmed by the shift in power. He tries to play the fiancé card to force her to listen to him. Larit shuts him down instantly by mentioning the breakup papers she already sent. He reaches for her again, and she smacks his hand away with a sharp crack of her fan. Gregor loses his temper and grabs her wrist, squeezing tight as he glares at her. He tries to drag her off to talk in private, but she struggles against him. The rest of the party guests stop what they're doing to whisper about the commotion. Larit looks around, feeling trapped as the crowd continues to close in. The entire ballroom has gone quiet, and everyone's eyes are fixed on their spat. The whispering intensifies as the local socialites enjoy the unfolding scandal. Once again, Larit has been turned into a public spectacle for everyone else's amusement. She thinks back to the tea parties where she was always forced into this role. Larit closes her eyes, wishing she could just make the whole day disappear. That's when Princess Evangeline Claudia steps in and tells Gregor to get his hands off her friend. Gregor freezes, looking like he's seen a ghost now that royalty has intervened. Saraphina looks on in total shock, her entire plan completely backfiring. Evangeline stands her ground, arms crossed and looking absolutely finished with both of them. Gregor tries to stutter out some kind of pathetic excuse for his actions. The princess just looks down her nose at him, clearly unimpressed by his talk. He looks like he's about to collapse under the sheer weight of her icy stare. Evangeline turns her back on the pair, done wasting another second of her time. Larit watches in silence as her former bullies are put in their place with just a few words. The princess mentions the exclusive salon, the most glamorous event in the entire empire. Traditionally run by a duchess, Evangeline is the one handling everything now. Saraphina is seething with jealousy as she watches the princess take Larit under her wing. Evangeline stares Gregor down, asking if he actually has something important to say. He doesn't wait for a second invitation and quickly drags Saraphina away from the table. Larit can only stare at the woman who just became her most powerful and unexpected ally. Back at the restaurant, Evangeline and Larit sit down for a meal while looking over the menu. The princess seems pretty particular about what she wants to order. Larit just watches as her new partner takes full control of the lunch plans. Elsewhere, Gregor Gusto is pacing back and forth, completely losing his cool. He panics, telling Saraphina that his entire title is at stake if the marriage doesn't happen. Saraphina Lopez snaps at him to be quiet, so she can actually think of a solution. Gregor immediately shuts up, looking like he's about to cry right then and there. She starts biting her finger, trying to figure out how to reel Larit back in. It's clear she isn't going to let her friend get away that easily. Later on, Larit is relaxing at home and reading through a letter from the princess. Evangeline is taking their friendship contract very seriously, even planning Larit's wardrobe. She's surprisingly enthusiastic about finally having someone to style and hang out with. Larit can't help but chuckle at how different the Villainess is from the rumors. The letter says she can stop by the manor anytime she wants, no invitation needed. Evangeline even signed it with a little note saying she'll be waiting for her. Larit looks at the signature and feels a strange sense of relief wash over her. She pulls the letter close to her chest, happy to finally have a real ally on her side. She's so thrilled that she ends up rolling around on her bed like a teenager. But she eventually composes herself, knowing she has to keep moving forward. She picks up the invitation, seeing the prestige that comes with that ducal seal. She decides to start her day with a much more positive outlook than before. Her maid brings in a stunning new dress, and it's time to get ready for the day. They chat about the upcoming schedule while she finishes getting her hair done. The The maid looks a little surprised by her mistress's sudden change in energy, but the good mood doesn't last long once she sees who's waiting in the parlor. Baroness Bentler is sitting on the couch, already helping herself to some tea. Saraphina is right there next to her, looking like a concerned little puppy. The Baroness fans herself aggressively, clearly annoyed at having to wait. Saraphina puts on a worried face, looking over at the older woman for guidance. She starts complaining about how Larit's recent behavior is a disgrace to the family. This woman has a long history of bullying Larit under the guise of teaching her manners. Larit stands in the doorway, listening to the same tired lectures she's heard for years. Saraphina jumps to her feet, acting like she's so relieved to see her dear friend. She puts on her most innocent face, trying to play on Larit's guilt. Larit just stands there with her arms crossed, completely over the fake act. Saraphina's expression falters when she realizes she isn't getting a reaction. The Baroness stands up and starts pointing fingers, demanding an explanation. Larit just lets out a long sigh, wishing these people would just leave her alone. This only makes the Baroness angrier, her face turning a deep shade of red. Larit meets her gaze with a calm, smug smile that says she isn't afraid anymore. The Baroness screams that she's being cocky instead of grateful for her advice. Saraphina looks on in shock as her last attempt at manipulation fails miserably. Saraphina is taken aback, desperately claiming that she was Larit's childhood friend too. Larit stands firm, looking down at the woman who has manipulated her for so long. She recalls Evangeline describing the kind of relationship she wants, one where they actually care about each other's preferences. Larit reflects on those words, realizing how shallow her past connections truly were. Saraphina's facade starts to crumble as she realizes she's losing her grip on Larit. She suddenly clutches her head, acting as if she's about to faint, while the Baroness rushes to her side. Saraphina clings to the Baroness, sobbing dramatically to garner sympathy. The Baroness pats her arm, glaring at Larit for being so cold-hearted. Tears stream down Saraphina's face in a calculated display of vulnerability. She begs Larit to reconsider, promising to try harder if her friendship with the princess is the problem. Then, leaning in close, Saraphina whispers a poison-laced warning about trusting Evangeline. Larit's eyes narrow as she listens to the desperate attempt at manipulation. Saraphina continues to sow seeds of doubt, her voice dripping with fake concern. She grabs Larit's hand tightly, trying to force a connection that is no longer there. She suggests that the princess is only using Larit as a new plaything for her social circle. Saraphina offers a chillingly sweet smile, waiting for Larit to crumble under the pressure. But instead, Larit begins to pull her hand away, her mind made up. She firmly breaks the physical contact, signaling the definitive end of their supposed bond. Saraphina stares in disbelief as her influence over Larit vanishes completely. A genuine, peaceful smile spreads across Larit's face as she finally feels free. She turns her back on them both, walking away without a single regret. Larit strides through the parlor, her head held high for the first time in years. She glances back one last time, her expression cool and indifferent. The Baroness is left speechless by Larit's sudden and absolute defiance. Larit casually mentions that House Bentner likely won't be receiving any prestigious invitation soon. The Baroness looks like she's about to explode with rage at the blatant dismissal. Saraphina can only watch, cold sweat running down her face as her social standing slips away. Larit doesn't look back again, focused only on the future she is building for herself. She clenches her fist, feeling the weight of her old life finally being lifted. In the shadows, Saraphina's expression turns dark and vengeful as she whispers to herself. Larit's face is partially obscured as she gives her final, cold parting words. She shuts the door on Saraphina, telling her that she needs to learn to survive on her own now. The morning sun shines brightly over the grand estate, signaling a fresh start for Larit. Dressed in her finest, Larit offers a polite bow to the princess. She formally greets Evangeline, her heart racing with a mix of nerves and excitement. Evangeline is waiting for her at an elegantly set tea table in the garden. However, the princess jokingly gives Larit's formal greeting a -3 points. She softens her tone, asking if they aren't supposed to be friends, even if it's just a contract. Larit's eyes light up with joy, and she eagerly agrees to speak more casually from now on. Her red eyes sparkle with genuine happiness as she looks at her new friend. Evangeline hides behind her teacup, perhaps a bit flustered by Larit's pure enthusiasm. The two young women sit together, finally enjoying a peaceful moment of true companionship. Larit notices a flicker of doubt in Evangeline's eyes as they continue their tea time. Evangeline looks off into the distance, her expression becoming more solemn. She lowers her gaze, her hand clutching her teacup as if she's searching for comfort. She lets out a soft sigh, the weight of her responsibilities clearly taking a toll on her. Evangeline's mind drifts back to the image of her reflection in the water, feeling fragmented and uncertain. She thinks of her brother, the Duke, who always seems so capable and distant in his regal blue cape. The pressure of managing the vast ducal lands and their people is a game of high-stakes chess that she feels ill-equipped to play. Maintaining relationships with other nobles and the imperial family is just as difficult as winning a game of chess. Larit watches her intently, sensing the deep-seated anxiety hidden beneath Evangeline's noble exterior. Evangeline knows she must understand how the ducal house runs, even if it feels overwhelming. She feels like a mere puppet in a grander scheme, manipulated by forces beyond her control. She recalls instances of merchant houses swindling nobles with overpriced luxury goods like fragrances. In the harsh eyes of society, she is often branded as incompetent when compared to the achievements of others. The shadows of doubt loom large over her, threatening to consume her confidence. Even simple gifts can be turned into evidence of her supposed lack of discernment. She remembers the mocking whispers of those who doubt her sincerity and judgment. The cruel smiles of her detractors haunt her, making her second-guess every decision. Evangeline sits in silence for a moment, the weight of these thoughts hanging heavy in the air. She wonders if she'll ever truly be able to handle the complicated documents and duties her brother once managed. Larit speaks up, assuring Evangeline that she'll get used to it all soon enough. She promises that Evangeline won't have to face any of it alone, because she'll be right there by her side. Evangeline looks up, surprised and touched by Larit's sincere words of encouragement. Larit reaches across the table, offering a comforting gesture to her new friend. With a bright, determined gaze, Larit asks Evangeline to trust her as they embark on this journey together. Look at all that paperwork. It's an absolute mountain. Evangeline is already hitting a wall, staring blankly at the text. Larit doesn't seem bothered, but it's clear the princess is drowning. Evangeline just face-plants onto the desk. Larit can tell she's way out of her element. Larit grabs the first sheet to start sorting through the mess. Her first piece of advice? Ditch the extra flowers. Evangeline is totally confused. Larit explains that a forest of flowers will just block the view when people are trying to see the art. Evangeline just stares. She's never thought about it like that before. Instead, Larit suggests putting that money into better lighting. It finally clicks for Evangeline, and she's genuinely impressed. Larit keeps the momentum going and moves on to the next document. She praises the princess for being such an eager student, which sends her face bright red. Larit gets a bit heated thinking about how Saraphina called the princess an ignorant fool. The sudden outburst catches Evangeline off guard, but Larit just laughs it off. Evangeline gives a soft smile. She's actually having a good time. The princess is still super flustered from the earlier compliment. She clears her throat and tries to get back into professional mode. Larit thinks it's cute and agrees to keep going. The two of them dive deep into the stacks of paperwork. Larit notes that these are just floor plans and item lists, nothing too sensitive. She flips through a few more pages, making sure everything is in order. A little smirk creeps onto her face. Everything is going exactly as planned. She keeps reviewing the documents late into the evening. Night falls over the massive estate. Duke Dietrich is finally calling it a day, loosening his tie as he heads in. He lets out a long sigh, clearly exhausted after a full day. He tells an attendant to bring the salon documents to his study for a final check. He walks down the hallway, his boots clicking on the floor. Dietrich is surprised to hear that Evangeline actually reviewed them herself. He enters the room to see the results. He picks up the papers left behind on the desk. His eyes widen as he takes a closer look at the handwriting. He's stunned by how neat and detailed the notes are. This isn't her usual style. He looks over and sees his sister fast asleep at her station. He asks if she really did all this alone. Turns out, Larit was the one who coached her through it. Dietrich gently scoops the sleeping girl up. He carries her over to her bed and carefully lays her down. He brushes a stray hair from her forehead, looking surprisingly soft. He's genuinely impressed that she's actually trying to help with his workload. He reaches for one of the ledgers she organized. Thanks to how well the files were sorted, his own work just got a whole lot easier. The sun begins to rise on a new morning at the estate. Evangeline wakes up, blinking at the soft morning light. She rubs her eyes, totally confused about how she got here. She definitely remembers being at her desk. She looks around the room, trying to piece together the missing hours. Over in the sitting room, Dietrich is already up and has the tea ready. Evangeline hurries over, her dress rustling with every quick step. She bursts into the room and immediately calls out to her brother. Dietrich gives her a calm good morning and offers her a fresh cup of tea. The princess is still a little flustered from the sudden wake-up call. He tells her she worked so hard, she didn't even notice she'd passed out at her desk. He pauses for a second, holding the teacup midair as he asks a question. Dietrich admits he's actually curious about the salon she's been leading. He even mentions clearing his schedule to attend, which is a massive change from his usual routine. Evangeline isn't buying it. She's used to him disappearing to meetings the second things start. She looks down, remembering the times he promised to stay, but didn't. Every single time, she'd end up standing there in the middle of the ballroom all by herself. Dietrich looks a bit guilty and starts to offer an apology, but Evangeline shuts it down. She's already got plans to spend the whole time with Larit anyway. Dietrich is genuinely surprised. He's never seen her take a liking to anyone so quickly. He thinks back to the documents. They were so perfect, there was almost nothing for him to fix. Evangeline's eyes light up when she talks about Larit. She thinks the girl is a straight-up genius. Dietrich notes her rank and wonders if being a family heir is why her paperwork is so sharp. He stays quiet, but his expression says he thinks there's more to her than just good training. Meanwhile, Larit is getting ready for the day, looking every bit the noblewoman. Back in a room, Evangeline tells her brother to check the budget proposal later and starts to leave. She tells him he should try and get some rest too. Dietrich watches the tea swirl in his cup, lost in his own thoughts. He looks completely exhausted, leaning back with a hand to his head. Finally, the big day arrives. Evangeline is proudly showing Larit around the salon exhibits. Larit is grateful for all that study time. She's got every key detail about the guests memorized. Now she's actually seeing those names from the guest list in person. She spots Marchioness Baldwin standing across the room. And over there are the heavy hitters from the Imperial Council. It all makes sense now. This is exactly why Saraphina was so desperate for an invitation. Larit still can't wrap her head around why Saraphina would spread such awful rumors about her. Evangeline suddenly appears, calling out to her with a huge, genuine smile. Larit is relieved. She was probably more worried about her friend than the princess was about herself. Evangeline admits she might have gotten a little too excited about the salon. Larit watches her, thinking she's as cute as a cat when she gets like this. The princess looks absolutely stunning in her full salon attire. Larit feels a bit plain standing next to such a classic, regal beauty. Evangeline asks her what she thinks of the salon now that she's seeing it for herself. They share a light-hearted moment, both of them proud of what they've pulled off together. Evangeline suggests starting their tour with the sculptures, noting how impressive they look from across the room. From behind them, Dietrich calls out his sister's name. Evangeline turns around and is delighted to see that her brother has actually joined them. Dietrich approaches the two women, remarking that he's finally managed to find where they were hiding. Evangeline introduces him to Larit, thinking the timing is perfect for the two of them to get acquainted. Larit feels a wave of awkwardness wash over her, remembering that this man is Saraphina's future partner in the original story. She gives a deep, respectful bow to the Grand Duke, keeping her eyes lowered. Dietrich smiles warmly and greets her properly, expressing his pleasure at meeting her at last. A person approaches to tell Evangeline that Marchioness Baldwin is eager to speak with her. Evangeline apologizes and asks her brother to look after Larit while she goes to greet the guests. Larit is internally screaming. She had a plan to avoid any direct involvement with him. Dietrich watches her, wondering if he was too far away for her to hear him properly. He leans in close to get her attention, softly calling out, "Lady Yancy." Larit is startled by his sudden proximity and wonders if he could read the look on her face. In her flustered state, she catches her foot on her hem and begins to stumble. Dietrich's reaction is instantaneous, his blue eyes sharp with concern. He catches her before she can fall, noting that she looks quite unwell and offering to call a doctor. Larit is paralyzed. Up close, his features are so dazzling, she can't even think straight. She manages to look away, her heart racing as she tries to find her voice. She insists she's fine and brags about her excellent stamina to hide her embarrassment. She immediately regrets it, worrying he'll tell Evangeline she's too weird to hang out with. Dietrich calls her name again, his voice calm and steadying. He tells her she should try to see the whole salon today so she doesn't miss any of his sister's hard work. Larit looks up at him, her face still bright red as he prepares to lead her through the room. He offers his escort with a gentle gesture, and she accepts with a quiet "Yes, Your Grace." Dietrich points out how well executed everything is, from the lighting to the distribution of pamphlets. He tells her she's done a wonderful job with the logistics, and Larit's heart swells with pride. He notices the clever placement of the landscape paintings and the decorative plants at the entrance. He points out that she seems to be analyzing the layout more than the actual artwork on display. Larit explains that she only noticed those things because she saw how much sleep Evangeline sacrificed for them. She adds that she truly appreciates the works themselves, chosen by Evangeline's excellent eye. Dietrich blinks, seemingly touched by how much she cares about his sister's efforts. He looks across the room at Evangeline, who is glowing as she talks to her guests. He thinks about how happy his sister looks, a side of her he hasn't seen in a long time. Dietrich turns his gaze back to Larit, his expression uncharacteristically soft. Larit looks down, feeling a bit flustered by the intensity of his attention. He touches his chest, wondering if this feeling of acknowledgement is what his family has been missing. Larit feels a strange sense of joy for no particular reason other than his kind words. She thanks him for his kind thoughts, though she worries she might start crying from the sentiment. She quickly points out a sculpture nearby, calling it striking, to shift the mood. Dietrich looks at the sculpture she's indicating, his brow furrowed in thought. The piece tells a tragic tale of a nymph who loved a god desperately, only to be used and discarded. Legend says the nymph, suffering from her unrequited love, eventually turned into a birch tree. Larit recalls that the story is famous enough that even she knows it. She explains that the sadness was so overwhelming that the nymph chose to escape into a different form. Larit steals a glance at the sculpture, pondering the weight of such a transformation. She wonders if the nymph's expression truly conveys only sadness. Dietrich's gaze follows hers as they stand before the work. He asks her if she sensed a different emotion hidden in the nymph's expression. Larit hesitates, trying to find the right words to describe her unconventional interpretation. She suggests that perhaps the nymph felt relief at finally leaving behind the days when she was pushed around. Dietrich finds her new interpretation interesting rather than offensive. He leans in to share a secret about the artist that contradicts the usual legend. Larit thinks he is being quite adorable and decides she should tell his sister about this side of him. Dietrich turns away, the light catching his hair as he continues to tour the room. Larit's mind suddenly pivots to the dark future where this kind brother eventually confines his sister to a convent. She stops in her tracks, her eyes wide as the grim reality of the original story hits her. She remembers the scene in the novel where Dietrich stands beside his sister, his expression cold and unyielding. She recalls Saraphina's words to the princess during their final confrontation. The memory of Saraphina's smug, condescending voice rings through her mind. Saraphina had looked down at the fallen royalty with utter contempt. How foolish, Lady Lopez, she had sneered, mocking her for ever thinking she could win. This is how the original story was supposed to go, a perfect romance between the Duke and the Saintess. And Larit? She was just the clumsy villain's extra who was destined to fall into the water and ruin everything. Evangeline was just the spectator watching the train wreck happen from the sidelines. But Saraphina isn't as sweet as she looks. There's a real monster hiding behind that saintly smile. Larit checks out the comments from the readers. Apparently, everyone is already obsessed with Dietrich. She knows the truth, though. Saraphina was the one who pushed her into that lake in the first place. Dietrich finds Larit after the event. He actually wants to keep talking to her. He gives her a polite bow, looking way too charming for his own good. Larit is left standing there, completely flustered. That's the power of a main lead. She has to tell herself to snap out of it. Falling for him is a one-way ticket to a bad ending. The other guests are losing their minds. They've never seen the princess actually socialize with anyone. Evangeline steps in, looking every bit the high society boss. The ladies nearly jump out of their skin when they see her standing right there. They start bowing and apologizing immediately. They know better than to gossip when she's around. Evangeline doesn't care. She's just playing with her jewelry. She asks them if they're actually enjoying the salon she put together. They admit it's way better than before. The layout and the art are actually visible now. Satisfied with the feedback, Evangeline heads off to find her friend. The guests are stunned. Did the princess just use the F word? Larit is off in the corner, finally getting a second to breathe. She takes a sip of wine, feeling the relief of a job well done. Evangeline spots her alone and immediately asks where her brother went. Larit explains he left to give them space. Evangeline thinks that's suspicious as hell. The princess looks annoyed. Her brother doesn't usually do things out of consideration. Larit just gives a little laugh. It's been a long day, the party is winding down, and everyone seems genuinely happy for once. Larit feels a real swell of pride. She's finally carving out a place for herself. The two of them stand together, looking like a real power duo. Larit's smile is genuine this time. No more acting. Night falls on the estate, and for once, things are peaceful. Well, almost. Saraphina is outside clutching a letter, and she looks absolutely livid. She remembers the good old days when Larit was her obedient little shadow. But Larit's letter was loud and clear. Their friendship is absolute trash. Saraphina crumbles the paper, her saintly mask completely falling apart. She lets out a silent scream into the night air. She's literally scratching at the window glass like she's lost her mind. She starts banging on the window, screaming that Larit is nothing but a maid. Her eyes are wide and full of pure, toxic desperation. Inside, the maids are just going about their business, totally unaware of the freak outside. Back in the safety of the room, Evangeline and Larit share a look. It's finally over. The princess flops onto the bed, completely drained from all the social energy. She smiles, giving all the credit to Larit for making the night such a success. Larit takes a quiet moment to herself, checking her reflection in the mirror. She's finally starting to see the person she wants to be. Evangeline is still buzzing from the success of the salon. She's never felt this accomplished or popular before. She's practically glowing as she talks to Larit. They really did make the impossible happen tonight. Larit's heart is doing backflips. She can't believe how well things are actually going in this new life. Evangeline grabs her hands, thanking her for being the only person she can truly trust in this mansion. They're becoming inseparable. The infamous Villainess and her favorite companion are now the talk of high society. Larit lets out a genuine laugh. The tension of the entire day is finally starting to melt away. Evangeline watches her with a soft expression, realizing just how lucky she is to have found a friend like this. She asks Larit what her real impression of the Duke was after their talk in the Hall of Stars. Later that night, the two of them wind down in their nightgowns, finally away from the prying eyes of the guests. Evangeline flops onto the bed, laughing like a normal teenager for once. Being evil is exhausting work. They sit cross-legged, trading stories and gossip about the weirdest nobles they met at the party. They lie back, staring at the canopy and talking about what their next move should be. Evangeline is so excited she's literally kicking her feet. She's already planning their next social takeover. Then, she brings up Dietrich again. She noticed the way his eyes never left Larit all evening. He's usually so cold and distant, but tonight, he was acting like a completely different person. Chibi Larit is having a total meltdown in her head, trying to process the idea of the Duke actually liking her. Evangeline teases her, leaning in close to catch the bright red blush on Larit's face. Larit jumps up, shouting that she could never have those kinds of feelings for someone as important as the Duke. But deep down, she remembers the way he treated her. It was more than just a polite, noble gesture. She tries to hide her smile, but the warmth spreading through her chest is getting hard to ignore. Eventually, the long and hectic day finally catches up with the exhausted princess. They lie in the quiet of the room, the sounds of the party now just a distant memory. Larit tucks her in, feeling a real sense of belonging and protection over her new friend. Unable to sleep herself, Larit steps out onto the balcony to let the night air clear her head. The breeze is nice, but she feels a sudden, familiar presence nearby that makes her heart skip. She grips her ribbon as she turns around, her breath catching in her throat. And there he is, Dietrich himself, also out for a late-night stroll away from his duties. He's ditched the formal Duke attire, looking much more relaxed with his collar open and tie loose. He leans against the railing, joining her under the stars in the quiet of the garden. He asks if she's also having trouble sleeping after such an eventful evening. He's fiddling with a ribbon from his cravat, looking surprisingly human and approachable. Larit is caught completely off guard. Being alone with him like this is a lot more intense than the ballroom. He asks if she can spare a moment to talk. He clearly has something sincere on his mind. Larit looks away for a second, her mind racing with a million different thoughts and possibilities. She tells him that she's actually been in need of a real friend for a very long time. She thinks back to her old associates, the ones who only ever used her as a background character. Dietrich asks about the people she used to be close with, specifically Saraphina Lopez and Gregor Gusto. Larit confirms it with a smile, telling him she's officially broken off both the friendship and the engagement. Dietrich watches her intently, his eyes filled with a new kind of curiosity and respect. Larit leans on the railing, finally feeling free from the script that once controlled her life. In her mind, the toxic people from her past are already starting to fade away into the shadows. Dietrich gazes at Larit, his expression softening as he acknowledges how much she means to his sister. He admits that he's glad Evangeline has finally found someone so precious to her. Larit is stunned. It feels like she's witnessing a side of the male lead that was never written in the original story. She quickly changes the subject, asking how he enjoyed the salon tonight. She thinks to herself that despite his cold exterior, he's actually quite overprotective of his family. Dietrich asks if she's tired from all the hard work she's put in lately. He starts to look a bit awkward, his usual composure wavering just a little bit. Larit notices the shift in his mood, wondering what could be making the Great Duke so hesitant. He's fiddling with a ribbon, looking like he wants to say something more, but can't find the right words. Larit's heart skips a beat as she realizes how close they are standing. She suddenly feels a rush of embarrassment and clutches her dress, unsure of what to do. She lets out a long sigh, trying to calm her racing thoughts before she says something she'll regret. She thinks about how in the original novel, Dietrich was always the distant, untouchable hero. He was usually paired with someone like Saraphina Lopez, the perfect noble daughter. In those scenes, Evangeline was always the jealous Villainess, watching from the shadows. But now, everything has changed. Larit gently tucks Evangeline in, watching as she finally finds some peace. She wonders what the original author would think of this scene. The next morning, Evangeline is already up and waiting with a mischievous look on her face. She wastes no time, immediately bringing up the fact that Larit and her brother were alone together on the balcony. She laughs, saying Dietrich is hopeless when it comes to anything other than work. She dismisses Larit for the day, telling her to go home and get some well-deserved rest. As Larit leaves, Evangeline shouts after her, teasing her about being a popular lady. Larit can only sputter in protest, her face turning a deep shade of crimson. She makes a quick exit, but she can still hear Evangeline's laughter echoing down the hall. Back inside, Evangeline reflects on how rare it is to see her stoic brother so flustered. She finds Dietrich in his office, where he's already buried in paperwork. She barges in and slams her hands on his desk, demanding his full attention. She starts lecturing him on how to treat a lady, but he seems more interested in his reports. Undeterred, she continues her critique of his lackluster social skills. She flips her hair, satisfied that she's made her point. A few days later, Larit returns to the mansion and is handed a very official-looking document. She can't help but tremble. Dealing with high-ranking nobles is still a bit terrifying. Evangeline is waiting for her in the parlor, looking unusually formal in her dark gown. Larit enters hesitantly, wondering if she's done something wrong to warrant such a serious mood. Evangeline gives her a playful smile, signaling that there's nothing to worry about. Larit's jaw drops as she reads the terms of the agreement in front of her. It's a formal contract, witnessed by the family's lead official, Stephen Warren. Evangeline calls for refreshments, wanting everything to be perfect for this momentous occasion. She hands over the final version of the document, which is far more than just a simple job offer. They sit down together to finalize the permanent friend contract, a deal worth 50,000 dirks. Evangeline is clearly proud of herself for coming up with such a clever way to keep Larit by her side. Larit is moved to tears. To her, this isn't just a business deal, it's a promise of a real future together. Larit stares at the document, her mind racing. Is this really the end of her days as just a background character? She clutches the paper, her hands trembling as she reads the terms of the agreement one more time. She looks up at the princess, barely able to find her voice to ask what this all truly means. Evangeline sits calmly across from her, a table of tea and sweets set between them as they discuss the future. When Larit hesitates, Evangeline simply shrugs and asks why she shouldn't be properly compensated for her loyalty. She takes a sip of her tea, looking every bit the poised and confident noblewoman. She clears her throat, trying to hide her own excitement at finally having someone she can trust. Larit finally takes the pen and carefully signs her name, making their bond of friendship official. Evangeline laughs, declaring that from now on, she will never let anyone mistreat Larit again. Larit holds the contract to her chest, her heart full of a warmth she's never felt before. She declares that she will treasure the document like a priceless family heirloom, much to Evangeline's surprise. Evangeline is completely defeated by Larit's pure and overwhelming kindness, finding her heart softening even more. After the meeting, Evangeline prepares to head out, picking up her parasol with a newfound sense of purpose. She stands tall, feeling more confident than ever with Larit officially by her side. She looks back at Larit, who is still beaming over the contract they just signed. Larit can't help but smile, feeling a sense of belonging in this world that she never thought possible. Evangeline leans in close, her eyes sparkling with a mischievous new idea. She suggests that Larit should use her charms to help her with another project, specifically her brother, Dietrich. Larit's face turns beet red as she frantically makes an X with her arms, refusing to even consider it. Evangeline is undeterred, thinking that Larit and Dietrich would make a perfect pair despite the protest. Larit remains firm in her refusal, her mind reeling at the very suggestion of being involved with the Duke. The sheer magnitude of what Evangeline is asking finally sinks in, leaving Larit in a state of complete shock. Outside, the sun begins to set over the grand and peaceful Claudius estate. Meanwhile, in his study, Dietrich pauses his work, sensing that he's become the subject of a very troublesome conversation. Evangeline speaks up, making it clear that Larit isn't just some outsider. She's her friend. Larit freezes, her eyes wide as the words sink in. The princess looks as confident as ever, completely unfazed by her own declaration. Evangeline grabs her hand and insists she stop worrying about the cost of things. They continue their stroll through the shops, the mood finally lightened. Evangeline has a mischievous spark in her eye, clearly enjoying the shopping spree. Larit reaches for a door handle, telling herself she needs to drop the habit of being so hesitant. They step outside together under a shared umbrella. Fast forward a few hours, and the salon is in full swing with flowers everywhere. After everything settles, Larit is absolutely drained from the day's events. Her mind drifts through all the tiny details she had to manage, from wallpaper choices to the silverware. She looks over at the woman who made it all possible. Something in a shop window catches Larit's attention. She stops in her tracks, pressing a hand to the glass. Inside sits an exquisite, gold-detailed fountain pen. Larit's gaze softens as she remembers a gift she received from the Duke. She imagines Dietrich at his desk, working late into the night. She turns back to Evangeline, a new idea taking root. Larit blurts out her thoughts, catching the princess off guard. She thanks her for everything and mentions wanting to find a specific gift. Evangeline is stunned. Larit wants to give something to her brother? The princess looks at her friend with a mix of surprise and intrigue. She explains that Dietrich usually only receives formal, boring gifts from other noble houses. Evangeline taps her chin, thinking about how rare a personal gift would be for him. Larit pictures the Duke being swarmed by other noble women, all eager for his attention. She reaches out toward the display, her mind made up. Evangeline places a hand on her shoulder, encouraging her to just go for it. Larit agrees, and they head back toward the exit. Evangeline leans in, promising to keep the secret until Larit is ready to give it to him. They share a laugh as they part ways for the day. Larit waves as the royal carriage starts to pull away from the estate. She holds the small gift box tight, but then notices a strange figure lurking in the greenery. Out from the shadows steps Saraphina Lopez, looking absolutely livid. Larit stops cold, her heart sinking as she sees her former friend. Saraphina lunges forward, her face twisted in a snarl as she grabs Larit's arm. The sudden force causes Larit to drop the box, startling the nearby servants. Larit tries to shove her off, shocked by the sudden aggression. The servants scramble to pick up the fallen gift while the two women face off. The staff can only watch in confusion as the tension spikes. Larit tries to pry Saraphina's fingers away, but she won't let go. They stand in the dimming light, the garden suddenly feeling very small. Saraphina gets right in her face, screaming that Larit is nothing without her. Saraphina is absolutely unhinged, screaming about how Larit never used to complain and accusing her of suddenly turning on her. She's completely lost it, yelling right in Larit's face about being her friend. Larit stares back, realizing that the Saraphina she thought she knew, the one with all the angelic words, was just a mask. The two women face off in the dark, the air thick with years of unspoken resentment. Larit finally snaps back, telling Saraphina to stop deluding herself. She stands her ground, her voice firm and her expression cold. Larit lets it all out, calling out the fake friendship they had. Saraphina just stands there, looking shocked that her former shadow is actually talking back. Larit clenches her fist, the memories of being used and ignored bubbling to the surface. She remembers how she used to be just a doll to Saraphina, someone to be played with and tossed aside. Larit realizes she spent her whole life reacting to Saraphina's whims instead of living for herself. She looks at the person she once considered her only support, seeing nothing but a manipulator. Saraphina tries to play the victim, her expression shifting to one of hurt. She crosses her arms, looking down at Larit as if she's the one who's been wronged. She touches her lip, clearly trying to figure out her next move now that her usual tactics aren't working. Saraphina scoffs, telling Larit that she heard her loud and clear. She knows she's hated. She leans in, a smug smile playing on her lips as she challenges Larit to actually leave her behind. Larit watches as Saraphina turns her back and walks away into the shadows. The scene shifts to later, where Larit is back inside, safely away from the garden drama. She's focused on a desk, her hand moving a pencil across a piece of paper. Larit laughs nervously, apologizing for being too loud as she works with Evangeline. The fancy fountain pen Larit picked out is finally being put to good use. Evangeline looks absolutely regal, holding the rose-engraved pen Larit gave her. Larit gives her a thumbs up, thrilled that the princess likes the gift. Larit leans over the documents, her sharp eyes scanning every line for mistakes. She immediately spots a discrepancy in the number of trees listed for the garden. She points out a calculation error and notes that labor costs weren't even included. Evangeline slumps over the table, frustrated that after all that hard work, it's still wrong. Larit reassures her, pointing out that the margin of error is way smaller than it used to be. The princess looks up, her eyes wide as she takes in Larit's genuine encouragement. She reaches out, her gloved hand gently taking Larit's. Larit smiles softly, happy to see her friend feeling better. Evangeline is clearly moved, looking at Larit with a newfound sense of respect. The princess gets back to work, the new pen gliding across the parchment as she tackles the paperwork. Larit watches her, amazed by how quickly Evangeline is picking up these new management skills. Suddenly, a noise at the door catches Larit's attention. Dietrich stands in the doorway, looking tired but every bit the imposing Duke. Evangeline looks up, a bit flustered to see her brother there while they're working. She quickly gathers her things and heads for the door, leaving Larit alone with Dietrich. Larit freezes, her face flushing as she realizes she's now in the same room as the Duke. Evangeline clutches a small box to her chest, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She looks absolutely thrilled, a wide smile lighting up her face as she holds her prize. Dietrich von Claudius scans the papers on the desk, his expression unreadable behind his spectacles. Larit Ansi watches him closely, her heart pounding in the quiet room as he reviews their work. She nervously taps the lid of the elegant black box resting on the desk. desk, the gift she prepared. Dietrich looks over at her, his gaze intense as he processes the effort she's put into teaching his sister. Larit smiles brightly, assuring him that she's genuinely enjoying her time with Evangeline. They stand together in the grand room, a sudden, expectant silence falling between them. Larit speaks up, her voice steady as she addresses the Duke. Dietrich turns slightly, his presence commanding as he gives her his full attention. Larit picks up the black box, offering it to him with both hands. She presents the gift to Dietrich, her eyes downcast in a rare moment of shyness. The box is exquisitely crafted, its gold ornaments shimmering under the room's lights. She waits for his reaction, her breath held as she hopes he'll accept it. Dietrich gestures with his hand, looking slightly surprised by the sudden gesture. Larit's heart skips a beat as she starts to explain, her words coming out in a rush. Suddenly, Dietrich leans in incredibly close, his face just inches from hers as he listens. Larit is frozen in place, her world narrowing down to the sight of his piercing blue eyes. He watches her closely, his expression softening as he takes in her flustered state. At the door, Evangeline peeks in, her eyes wide with shock at the intimate scene unfolding. Dietrich holds the gift box, looking down at it with a thoughtful expression. Larit stands perfectly still, her face likely burning red after such a close encounter. With a small, polite bow, Dietrich acknowledges her before turning to leave. He pauses at the doorway, his hand resting on the frame as he looks back. Dietrich steps toward his sister, who looks caught between annoyance and embarrassment. Evangeline erupts in a dramatic fit, complaining loudly about her hair, while her brother watches stoically. Later, Evangeline stands by the door, still looking a bit ruffled from the encounter. Back at the desk, Larit shares a laugh with Evangeline, the tension from earlier finally breaking. The two women sit side by side, their friendship deepening as they continue their work. That evening, a magnificent feast is laid out on a long, candlelit dining table. Evangeline sits across from Dietrich, looking every bit the highborn lady as they share a meal. She looks up in surprise, her blue eyes wide as her brother says something unexpected. Dietrich maintains his composed demeanor, explaining that he is simply correcting a mistake. A maid serves them, and Evangeline acknowledges her with a polite word of thanks. She gives a small, satisfied smirk, clearly pleased with the progress she's making under Larit's guidance. Larit sits at the table as well, her red eyes wide as she observes the rare sibling interaction. The table is laden with exquisite food, from roasted meats to a platter of fresh, sliced pineapple. Dietrich, Evangeline, and Larit are sitting down for a quiet family dinner. Evangeline tries to get her brother to eat some dessert, but the Duke doesn't look like he's in the mood for sweets. Larit just stays quiet and focuses on her plate, trying not to get caught in the middle of their sibling dynamic. She takes a slow bite of her food, still feeling a little out of place in such a fancy setting. The whole vibe at the table is pretty stiff with Dietrich sitting right across from them. He eventually sets his cutlery down, signaling that he's finished with the meal. Later on, the girls head out to a beautiful glass gazebo for some tea and a private chat. Evangeline slides a document across the table, acting like she's about to reveal a top-secret mission. She's beaming with pride, telling Larit that she's finally ready to make things official between them. Larit claps her hands together, genuinely touched by whatever the princess has planned. But the second she sees what's actually on the paper, she looks like she's seen a ghost. Evangeline gets right in her face, shaking her with excitement, because Larit is officially her legal best friend now. The table is a mess of papers, but this contract is the only thing Larit can focus on. She starts thinking about how toxic her past life was with Saraphina, which makes this new kindness feel even more surreal. Evangeline notices her stunned expression and asks if she was so shocked she couldn't even sleep. Larit looks at the numbers again, unable to believe the massive quarterly allowance she's being offered. Evangeline just keeps her cool and sips her tea, letting Larit take as much time as she needs to process the news. While Larit tries to wrap her head around her new fortune, the princess stays perfectly composed. Larit is still a stuttering mess, completely overwhelmed by how much her life has changed in an instant. Evangeline's eyes are locked onto her, showing she's dead serious about this partnership. She gets a bit dramatic, telling Larit to stop playing hard to get and just sign the paper already. Larit covers her face, actually moved to tears by how much the princess values their bond. She ends up bowing in gratitude, promising to cherish this as a historic moment for her family. A maid watches them from the hallway, probably wondering why they're getting so emotional over tea. Fast forward a bit, and the girls are meeting with a merchant to discuss some imported goods for the household. The merchant is all smiles, thinking he's about to pull a fast one on two inexperienced noblewomen. Evangeline catches a reflection in her teacup, already seeing right through the guy's overpriced pitch. She tells him flat out that she isn't trying to be difficult, but his prices are way too high. Larit stands in the background and holds up a sign for a rival merchant house called Wells. Evangeline gives him an ultimatum, Either he lowers the price, or they'll just take their business elsewhere. The merchant starts sweating bullets the moment he realizes Larit has done her homework on his competition. Little do they know, Dietrich is actually standing by the door, watching the whole thing go down with a smirk. The merchant realizes he's been beat and offers a deep bow, desperate to stay in the Duke's good graces. Dietrich puts a finger to his lips, staying hidden so he doesn't ruin the girl's big victory. The merchant practically trips over himself to leave, bowing the entire way out of the room. Once the guy is finally gone, Dietrich steps into the room to congratulate his sister. Evangeline is glowing with pride, thrilled that she managed to save the household a ton of money. She looks over at Larit, knowing the victory wouldn't have been possible without her sharp eyes. But then she suddenly slumps over, feeling a bit intimidated now that her brother is actually talking to her. Dietrich actually has a rare, genuine smile on his face after seeing how capable his sister has become. He turns to Evangeline and asks her if he can ask for a quick favor. He puts a hand on her shoulder, leaving the princess wondering what her scary brother could possibly want from her. Dietrich asks Evangeline if she can help him out with a favor, if she's able. Evangeline is in a great mood and says she has no choice but to help if he's asking her like that. Dietrich is genuinely thankful. Larit watches their sibling moment from a distance, seeing a softer side to the Duke. Larit speaks up, politely asking if she can offer a small opinion of her own. She steps forward to address Dietrich directly, looking more confident than before. She gives a modest smile and waves it off, just happy to contribute to the household. Evangeline turns back to her, addressing her with a soft tone. Larit gets a bit sheepish, scratching her cheek as she thinks it's a bit bold for her to be advising such a powerful family. Evangeline just leans in and tells her to relax, since even her brother values her input. Larit makes a funny little face while the princess continues to shower her with praise. Evangeline looks at her with a much softer, more genuine expression than her usual haughty self. She clenches her fists with newfound determination, ready to keep proving her worth. It's finally the day of the regular vassal meeting, and the grand table is all set for the lords of the empire. A maid comes in with a tray of fresh snacks and tea to keep everyone energized for the long day. Evangeline is already hard at work, checking her clipboard to make sure every detail is perfectly organized. She oversees the final preparations as the staff moves through the room like clockwork. She looks around the empty hall one last time, making sure she hasn't missed a single thing. She reaches for a stack of reports, ready to dive into the heavy administration of the duchy. Suddenly, a maid named Boney comes running into the room, looking absolutely frantic. Evangeline asks what's got her so worked up, and the girl gasps out that there's an urgent message from the greenhouse. Meanwhile, Stefan Warren is looking over the new reports, impressed by how much the internal management has improved. Dietrich hands over the final document, and Stefan confirms that the work is more than just all right. The Duke and his manager discuss the smooth transition and the unexpected efficiency of the new system. Dietrich greets Lord Warren warmly as more officials arrive to begin the formal session. The vassals gather, clearly noticing the positive changes within the estate's administration lately. Stefan starts getting emotional, wiping away a happy tear because it feels like the princess has finally grown up. Dietrich sits back and watches his men with a calm, observant gaze, satisfied with the progress. The meeting concludes successfully, with the Duke standing among his most trusted advisors. He gives his final approval for the day, looking proud of how his family is performing. Dietrich decides to go find his sister to pass on all the praise he heard, but he's told she's already stepped out. He feels a bit of a headache coming on, likely from the intense hours he's been putting in. He lets out a heavy sigh, his eyes reflecting the deep exhaustion of managing the entire duchy. He heads to the massive library, looking for some peace and quiet away from his duties. Inside, Larit is already there, surrounded by the serene atmosphere of the books. She's been doing some late-night reading, looking perfectly at home in the grand room. Dietrich stumbles in, rubbing his temples as he struggles with the strain of his long day. He's surprised to find Larit still awake and working in the library at this hour. She immediately gets up and approaches him, concerned by how worn out he looks. As she gets close to check on him, the sudden proximity makes the Duke's heart skip a beat. He stares at her, his pulse racing as he realizes just how close they've become. Dietrich ends up holding her, completely caught off guard by his own reaction to her presence. Larit's hands rest on her book, her mind racing as she tries to make sense of the sudden tension between them. Dietrich sits quietly in the library, holding a book while Larit rests her head against his shoulder in a peaceful moment. Larit eventually pulls away, her cheeks flushed as she gives him a shy, warm smile. Dietrich turns his attention to a document in his hand, though Larit is surprised he's still here working. She starts gesturing wildly with her hands, clearly embarrassed by the intimate atmosphere of the library. Dietrich lets out a soft sigh and looks down at the papers, with Larit sitting right beside him. Larit thinks to herself about how she had managed to finish all her preparations perfectly before coming here. Elsewhere, Evangeline looks a bit reluctant, as if she wanted to stay and talk longer with her guest. Larit looks up, her vibrant red eyes filled with a curious and gentle light. She can't help but smile to herself, feeling a deep sense of contentment in this new life. Dietrich rubs his eyes with his hand, the exhaustion of his duties finally catching up to him. The two of them share a few more lighthearted words, their smiles showing the genuine bond they've formed. Across the estate, Evangeline enjoys a quiet tea session with another noblewoman, though she seems a bit distracted. Back in the study, Dietrich is deep in concentration, wearing his glasses as he writes with a quill. Larit visits him to check on his progress, and the two enjoy another moment of easy conversation. She clasps her hands together and gives him a bright, encouraging smile. Close-up of Dietrich's striking blue eye as he looks at Larit with newfound admiration. Larit reaches out and gently places her hand over his eyes, using her warm compress trick to help him rest. She speaks to him with a soft, caring tone, reminding him that even the Duke needs to take a break. Dietrich peeks through his fingers, mesmerized by the kindness and warmth she always brings into his life. Larit becomes a bit flustered by his intense stare, her hands fluttering as she tries to hide her blushing face. A faint blush colors Dietrich's face as he realizes how much he truly enjoys her company. Larit's hand lingers near his, a small but significant gesture of their growing closeness. The two of them lean in toward each other, the tension between them reaching its peak in the quiet room. Dietrich suddenly looks away, covering his face as he tries to hide just how much she affects him. He then reaches for her hand and brings it close to his face, his gaze full of unspoken affection. At that exact moment, Evangeline bursts through the door and stops dead in her tracks at the sight of them. She stands there in utter shock, her mouth open as she tries to understand what she's walked into. An awkward silence fills the air, with Dietrich hiding his face in shame and Larit looking completely mortified. Larit quickly rushes over to Evangeline, grabbing her hands and desperately trying to explain that it's nothing. Dietrich watches them from his seat, looking both relieved and a bit frustrated by his sister's timing. He eventually stands against the wall, looking down as he tries to calm his racing heart after such an eventful night.